You can get approved for a $35,000 Citizens Bank credit card without a hard credit pull. In other words, your credit report is not affected and your credit scores remain in excellent condition, completely untouched throughout the entire process. And soon, I'll show you the 5-step hack that you must follow to avoid getting hit with a hard credit pull, how 3 people racked up nearly $50,000 in soft pull approvals, and why Citizens Bank may let you apply from anywhere, but they're only handing out real approvals in 14 specific states. Oh, and by the way, I just added a link to this credit card in my free credit card pre-approval master list. I'll keep it updated monthly, and it has over 70 cards on it that you can get pre-approved for without a hard credit pull. I'll leave a link to that below so you can go ahead and check it out. And so, Citizens Bank recently wiped the slate clean and rolled out 5 brand new personal credit cards. I'm talking a complete overhaul. First, there's the Ant Mastercard. That's like a credit builder with no deposit, no annual fee, and no minimum score. It comes with a built-in upgrade path to their higher tier cards as well. Then there's the Spring World Mastercard. That's 0% interest for 18 months and on balance transfers too. Then there's the Summit World Mastercard. That's going to give you 3% back on dining and groceries, and then 1.5% back on everything else. And there's no annual fee. And then there's the Summit Reserve World Elite Card. That's going to come with premium travel rewards like TSA PreCheck, Priority Pass membership, and it has a $295 annual fee. And then on the highest level, they have the Summit Reserve Card. That's kind of for a private bank, invite only for ultra high net worth clients. Now let's talk data points. But I would say sometimes credit card plays like this feel like theory, like something that only works for someone else in some random corner of the internet. But with this one, this one's working in real life. So here's 3 people with 3 different situations who got approved without a hard credit pull. First is Greg, who ran the Citizens Bank play exactly as described and got pre-qualified for a $6,000 limit. But don't worry, we'll go over exactly how to execute the play a little bit later. Anyway, Greg said within 5 minutes he was approved with no hard pull. He got approved for the Summit World MasterCard. He was in Delaware, which is inside the Citizens Bank footprint. He had a credit score of 789 with Experian, and they pulled from Experian only, and it was a confirmed soft pull. He also had TransUnion and Equifax frozen. He had 2 inquiries on his file, and his pre-qualification offer matched his final offer of $6,000. Other than that, he received another offer for $11,000 with the card that comes with a $295 fee, but he declined that one. And then there's a MyFICO user who got pre-qualified for a $7,500 limit. They were already sitting on a high limit credit card stack. They were aiming to cross 600 plus K in personal limits. And while they admitted they didn't need another card, the new Citizens lineup caught their eye and their curiosity just took over. So here's how it played out. First, they got approved for the Summit World MasterCard. Their starting limit was $7,500. As far as the pre-qualification process goes, they were initially blocked and then prompted to unfreeze their Experian report to see credit limits and interest rates. After they unfroze their Experian report, they got an instant approval with no hard inquiry on any bureau. And they said they chose the Summit MasterCard because they wanted 3% dining rewards for everyday use when Discover isn't offering those 5% categories. And I gotta say, this data point confirms that Citizens is currently using Experian for a soft pull pre-qualification. And then there's David, who beat out everyone and took the crown for the highest starting limit. After going through the soft pull pre-qualification process, David was shown a $38,000 starting limit on the Summit Reserve MasterCard. That's Citizens Premium Travel Rewards card, by the way. He clicked apply and then got an instant approval. Again, there was no hard inquiry, and his final limit ended up being $35,000. But you should know, David's profile was actually built for this. He was in the state of Ohio, which is inside of Citizens Bank footprint. He had a credit score of 831 with Experian, an income of $387,000. His utilization was less than 2%, and he had 4 recent inquiries from a mortgage, a Parent Plus loan, and a couple of credit cards. Then he had other high limit cards. His Apple card, get this, was $142,000, and his Bank of America card at $75,000. He also had an existing Citizens Bank relationship, so he had a checking account and he had an $18,000 cash rewards MasterCard. And David went on to say, it's very nice not having a hard inquiry to pre-qualify for the card. It also showed all of the pre-approvals for their other credit cards and the starting limit. And he also mentioned that he regularly pays off his balances in full and keeps plenty of available credit, which no doubt helped him and his profile stand out. I would say this approval is a textbook example of how a perfect storm of high income, long standing banking relationships and a near perfect FICO score and a low utilization can unlock those top tier starting limits and cards. Now, moving on, after seeing multiple approvals kind of roll in and a few denials too, there are some real patterns starting to form. And these aren't just theories anymore. This is what the data, the real experiences, and the actual people are showing us. One of the most surprising and honestly refreshing parts of the Citizens Bank play is what they show you up front is actually what you get. We've now seen this pattern across three different applicants. There was David, was shown a $38,000 limit, and he got a $35,000 limit. Then Greg saw a $6,000 starting limit, and he actually got approved for 6,000. And then that MyFICO user got a $7,500 pre-approval or pre-qualification, and they ended up getting approved for a $7,500 limit. That kind of one-to-one consistency is extremely rare in the credit card world. Most banks will show you a huge number just to slash it down or deny you altogether once you hit apply. But Citizens, they're acting differently. Even though their system is labeled pre-qualification, not pre-approval, it's acting more like a true pre-approval behind the scenes. And to give you some extra context around this, most pre-qualifications across other banks average about a 60% approval rate. But based on the real data points I've collected so far, Citizens is closer to that 90 to 100% approval rate. Every single person I've seen who was pre-qualified and who lived in a Citizen state got approved for very close to the exact limit they were shown. That tells me they're not just running surface level filters here. They're actually doing the real back end checks like, income to debt models, internal scorecards, and maybe even relationship factors before they show you any offers. So, yes, it may say pre qualified, but if the offers pop up for you, you can move forward with way more confidence than usual. And another thing you must know is that location matters more than they tell you. This one surprised even me because it goes, directly against what I was told by a Citizens customer service rep. When I called in a few days ago, I asked point blank, can someone apply from outside of your service area? And they said yes, no restrictions, no problem. But here's the thing, almost everyone I've seen get approved, I mean, David, Greg, and the others live in one of those 14 states where Citizens Bank has a physical branch. The only one exception so far is one of my community members in Georgia, which does not have a physical bank branch. They were approved, but only for a $500 limit, which is much lower than the $6,000 and the $7,500 and especially the $35,000 limit that we saw elsewhere. To me, this signals that even in eligible states, Citizens is prioritizing applicants in their core branch markets. And everyone that I've seen get denied does not live in one of these 14 states. They lived in places like North Carolina, California, and Texas with great credit, clean reports and solid income, but they still got denied. So while technically you can apply from anywhere, in practice, it looks like Citizens is sticking with people inside of their geographic footprint for now, even if they don't come out and say it. So if you're not in one of these 14 states, and I'm going to leave it up on the screen right now, then, just know that your odds may be very low, even if your profile is perfect. Okay, so here's how to execute the Citizens Bank play step by step. So first, you want to head over to the Citizens Bank pre-qualification page. You don't need to log in or already be a customer. Just start fresh here. Then you want to enter your info. They'll ask, for the usual information like income, housing status, social security number. Then if the site says they can't show you offers unless you unfreeze Experian, go ahead and do that. It's just going to be a temporary thing. Once you can see your credit limit and APR offers, that's where you want to stop. Before hitting apply, go back to your Experian account and refreeze it. If you want to play it extra safe, you'll freeze Equifax too. And then you want to wait a few minutes. I would say at least 5 minutes before submitting the application. This gives the freeze time to kick back in. Now, if you don't get any offers, I wouldn't get too upset since it's just a soft pull. Plus, Citizens will automatically generate a denial explanation. So if you're not pre-qualified, you'll instantly receive a formal notice breaking down the reasons why. There's not going to be waiting for days for a letter in the mail. But I just need to warn you, this play isn't going to work for everyone. If you're outside of Citizen Bank's 14 state footprint, your odds of getting approved right now are extremely low, or your approval might come with a very low limit. We've now seen that one Georgia approval at just $500 compared to the much higher limits in states like Delaware and Ohio. So even if you technically qualify, you may not get the same level of trust or credit exposure from Citizens. And even though the Citizens Bank rep told me anyone nationwide could apply, it's just not true right now. That's why you can't rely on these frontline bank employees here. They're not in underwriting. They just don't know how the approvals are actually being handed out. But I know for a fact that many of you do not live in states that have a Citizens Bank branch. If you live in California or Texas, for example, then you're probably 1,000+ miles from one of these branches. But there are still so many options available for you nationwide where you can apply online too. So click on the next video right here to see close to 80 credit cards that you can get pre-approved for with just a soft credit pull. Thank you for watching.